Welcome back to Chapter by Chapter Classics, the short-form classic literature podcast where each episode walks you through a few chapters of a great book. Previously in Pride and Prejudice, the scandal of Lydia's elopement was patched up by a secretive rescue from Darcy. Bingley returned to propose to Jane, and Lady Catherine's furious visit accidentally opened the door for Elizabeth to hope Darcy might still care. In this episode, we're finishing the novel with chapters 59 through 61, where final proposals are made, families react, and Austen shows us how pride and prejudice have been overcome, or not, by each character.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show that extracts the essential knowledge and, the surprising insights from your reading list, giving you a shortcut to being truly well-informed.
And today, we are bringing a true literary titan home. We're diving deep into the final chapters, that's 59 through 61 of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice.
The grand finale.
The grand finale. And our goal is to provide a really comprehensive and satisfying analysis of the resolutions, the crucial final conversations, and how it all connects back.
Right, how Elizabeth Bennet and Fitzwilliam Darcy's whole journey ties into the novel's really enduring themes.
Exactly. And if you've made it this far, you know the conclusion hangs on two pivotal moments, both of which just completely flip the emotional standing of our main characters.
It's a huge shift, isn't it? From Darcy's, frankly, arrogant first proposal to the second one, which is just filled with this incredible, almost painful humility.
And what makes this so masterful is that the trigger for this happy ending, it's not some grand romantic gesture. It's actually a colossal social blunder.
It all comes down to Darcy's aunt, the one and only Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
The most proud, domineering aunt in literature.
Okay, let's unpack that irony right away, because Lady Catherine's interference is, it's the engine of the whole final act.
It is. She hears this rumor that Darcy, her nephew, who she has mentally betrothed to her own daughter, is planning to marry Elizabeth.
A complete nobody in her eyes.
An absolute nobody. So she decides to go and destroy this perceived disgrace herself. She storms into Longbourn.
And this isn't a polite visit.
Oh, no. It is a full-on confrontation. She demands that Elizabeth promise on threat of total social ruin that she will never, ever marry Darcy. She throws everything at her. Wealth, connections, the supposed engagement.
And Elizabeth's refusal to back down here is maybe one of the most satisfying moments in the whole book. She just will not be intimidated.
Not at all. It's about her innate self-respect. Her reply is so direct, so powerful. She just says, I will make no promise of the kind.
That phrase is pure fire. And here's where Austen's genius for dramatic irony just shines. Lady Catherine, furious, races back to London.
Right. She's intending to report all this insolence to Darcy, fully expecting him to be outraged that this woman of inferior standing dare to defy their family.
But her frantic, detailed account of Elizabeth's refusal, her sheer inability to be bullied, it unwittingly gives Darcy the one thing he needed.
Hope.
Exactly. Hope.
He realizes that if Elizabeth had been completely, irrevocably against him, if she truly despised him, she would have just told his aunt.
She would have said, don't worry, I can't stand your nephew.
Right. I would never marry him.
Yeah.
That would have ended the argument instantly. But her firm refusal to promise, it proved to him that she hadn't completely dismissed the idea. Her frankness was proof.
And that's the pivotal moment that lets him approach her a second time.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, the contrast between the two proposals is just, it's stark.
Oh, absolutely. The first one was framed as him overcoming his distaste for her family to do his duty.
Mm-hmm.
This time, there's no pride. Only vulnerability.
The language is completely different.
Completely transformed. He doesn't list his sacrifices or make demands. He just offers himself and gives Elizabeth total control. He says, my affections and wishes are unchanged, but one word from you will silence me on this subject forever.
It's the highest form of respect he could give her. He's acknowledging her right to decide with no pressure.
And Elizabeth's reaction is so beautiful because it's not just a giddy yes. It's a moment of really profound self-correction for her.
She feels this deep embarrassment, doesn't she? For her own unreasonable former opinions. She finally sees how blinding her own prejudice was, just as he learned the cost of his pride.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't just jump to saying, I love you. First, she expresses gratitude and this deep regret for her past mistakes. And then she admits the truth of her feelings.
That when they were apart, she felt, what was it? Uncomfortable? I may say unhappy.
Yes. The love grew not from some sudden passion, but from admiration and a slow, dawning understanding of his true character.
And they finally get to talk openly about everything. about those volatile early encounters. Darcy even confesses that her famous scathing line,
"Had you behaved in a more gentlemanlike manner."
that one, he says it tortured him.
And that line, which she meant as just this sharp dismissal, it became the single most important thing for his transformation. It forced him to really look at his own conduct.
He even admits he was wrong about Jane and Bingley, though he tries to justify it as protecting a friend.
Right. He says he was kinder than towards myself, but Elizabeth correctly points out that it wrecked her sister's happiness for months.
Which brings us to the second massive revelation. The one that really seals Elizabeth's admiration and turns it into absolute love.
The secret rescue of Lydia?
Yes. This is the bombshell that gets dropped in Mrs. Gardner's letter.
It is a critical piece of information. Elizabeth, and of course the reader, we all assumed that Mr. Gardner had sorted everything out. But the letter makes it completely clear.
It was Darcy.
It was Darcy, the true silent agent in settling Lydia's disgrace after she ran off with Wickham.
And the details of what he did are just extraordinary. It wasn't just facilitating a marriage.
Not at all. He shouldered the entire financial burden. He paid off all of Wickham's debts, which were well over £1,000.
A staggering sum back then.
A fortune. Then he bought Wickham a commission in the army and, on top of that, settled another £1,000 on Lydia herself to make sure the marriage would actually happen.
But it's his motivation that reveals everything, isn't it? The reason he insisted on doing it all in secret.
Absolutely. This wasn't for praise. It was driven by guilt. It was atonement.
How so?
He connected the entire disaster directly back to his own flaws. He blamed his own mistaken pride and his excessive reserve for not exposing Wickham years earlier.
Because he knew what Wickham was really like.
He had all the knowledge, but his class-based pride and his quiet nature stopped him from speaking plainly, especially to a family he saw as socially inferior, like the Bennets.
So he felt his silence made Wickham seem credible, which enabled Lydia's ruin.
Exactly. He saw it as his duty to fix the evil that his own pride had indirectly caused.
So this is so much more than charity. It's an act of profound moral accountability.
It is. He's paying a monumental price to correct a social error that was rooted in his own prejudice. And this transformation from the arrogant aristocrat to the selfless secret hero, it just completely reverses Elizabeth's entire perception of him.
And solidifies her love. She realizes he is, quote, exactly the man who, in disposition and talents, would most suit her.
And their union isn't just a happy ending. It's presented as one of mutual improvement. Her liveliness will temper his serious manners, and his judgment and knowledge will, benefit her. They make each other better.
Which, of course, throws Longbourn into wonderful chaos. We have to talk about the family reactions, starting with Mr. Bennet.
Oh, Mr. Bennet provides some of the best comic relief, but also some real insight.
His initial reaction is just total bewildered shock.
He genuinely thinks Elizabeth is out of her senses for wanting to marry the proud, unpleasant sort of man he always thought Darcy was. It's such a great callback.
And he only believes it when she tells him the truth about Darcy's role with Lydia.
Yes. And Mr. Bennet, a man who values character and wit above all else, finally sees Darcy's true virtue. He then gives the ultimate approval. He says, he deserves you.
It's an intellectual endorsement, not a financial one.
Which is the complete opposite of Mrs. Bennet.
Oh, Mrs. Bennet. Her transformation is purely about status and money.
All her intense dislike for Darcy just vanishes the moment she hears the magic words, 10,000 a year, and very likely more.
She is immediately transformed into the most eager mother-in-law, declaring it's as good as a lord.
And her worries immediately pivot to, securing a special license so they can marry quickly, and my favorite, finding out Darcy's favorite dish.
It's a classic Austen, a perfect social critique. Mrs. Bennet's vulgarity is still there, but her awe of Darcy's status at least makes her polite to him.
But the sources do remind us that even with all this joy, the social awkwardness of their circle doesn't just disappear.
Right. Darcy still has to put up with the parading and obsequious civility from people like Sir William Lucas,
who can't resist complimenting him on carrying away the brightest jewel of the country, and the sheer vulgarity of Mrs. Phillips is still a constant. It's a reminder that Elizabeth is, in part, escaping this society.
And we can't forget the final word from their cousin, Mr. Collins.
Of course not. He sends a congratulatory letter, but because Lady Catherine is so offended, Collins can't help but include a warning.
He advises her not to run hastily into a marriage which has not been properly sanctioned.
Even when congratulating her, he's still acting as Lady Catherine's loyal echo. It just proves his social absurdity is incurable. Some character flaws, Austen tells us, are permanent.
So let's look at the final fates of the other characters, because their stories say a lot about class and prudence. Jane and Bingley get their happy ending, don't they?
Yeah. They do. But significantly, they realize they can't stay at Netherfield. Being so close to Mrs. Bennet and all the Meryton gossip is, well, it's too much.
Even for easygoing Bingley.
Even for him. They end up buying an estate in a neighboring county, only about 30 miles from Pemberley.
Which is symbolic, really. They're choosing to be close to Elizabeth and Darcy, and their own peace and quiet over their old social ties.
It's a quieter form of escape. As for the Wickhams, Darcy's money saves them from disgrace, but it does not save their character.
No, they're settled up in Newcastle, living entirely on Darcy's funds, and they just continue their pattern of financial irresponsibility.
Lydia is described as untamed, unabashed, wild, noisy, and fearless. She's already writing to Elizabeth asking for more money, hinting that Wickham wants a place at court.
It shows the limits of intervention, right?
Yeah.
You can buy someone security, but you can't buy them good sense.
Exactly. Some folly is permanent. And back at Longbourn, life is a bit bittersweet for Mr. Bennet. He misses Elizabeth terribly.
Which drives him to visit Pemberley all the time, especially when he was least expected. He finally finds the intelligent company he always wanted.
And Lady Catherine, the cause of all this in the first place, she eventually relents. After sending some rather abusive letters, Elizabeth persuades Darcy to try and reconcile.
And she finally condescended to visit Pemberley.
Mainly out of sheer curiosity to see how the new mistress was managing things.
So if we pull back, the entire resolution just perfectly ties back into the novel's core themes.
Absolutely. The happiness of Elizabeth and Darcy was only possible when they both achieved true self-knowledge. Her initial prejudice and his rigid class pride were the real villains of the story.
And those flaws led directly to all the bad outcomes. The failed first proposal, the Lydia disaster.
And the victory of the novel is that the resolution feels completely earned. Austen builds this relationship with what critics call myriad, trivial, unforced strokes. Darcy is such a great romantic hero because his change is painful, it's internal, and it costs him something.
He had to truly face his own defects, not just say sorry for them.
Their story confirms that real love means moving past class and past first impressions, and really acknowledging the true worth and the imperfections of another person.
A deeply satisfying end to one of the most beloved stories ever written.
Before we close, here's a final thought for you to contemplate. It's about the deliberately imperfect nature of happiness in this novel. We know Mrs. Bennet still was occasionally nervous and invariably silly, even after all her daughters are married off so well. So consider Mr. Bennet's ultimate domestic situation.
Okay.
Do you think Austen's choice to keep Mrs. Bennet perpetually foolish was a deliberate literary move? Perhaps to ensure that Mr. Bennet, the true philosopher, would never have to give up the one thing that always amused him, his wife's absurdities. It suggests that true happiness in life includes enduring and sometimes even being entertained by the flaws of those around you.
A beautiful, complex, and perfectly imperfect ending. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
That's the end of Pride and Prejudice. Darcy and Elizabeth engaged at last. Jane happily matched with Bingley, and the rest of the characters settled in ways that reflect their choices and flaws. In our bonus episode, we'll step back for a full exam-style review of the novel, plot, characters, themes, and some essay-style questions you can use for class or independent study. Thanks for listening to Chapter by Chapter Classics. If this episode helped you follow the story, follow the show in your podcast app so you don't miss the next chapter. And if you're enjoying this series, please take a moment to rate the podcast or leave a short review. It really helps other readers and students find the show.